Why is conflict at work so stressful, and what can you do about it? I'm Emilie West, I'm a career coach, and I'm here to help you achieve more success with less stress. And one of the things that's very stressful at work is if we're in conflict with our colleagues or with our boss or our boss's boss. So I'm going to share today a bit about why is that so stressful for us and what can we do about it. Now, someone recently asked me why I focus my coaching mainly around careers. And I said it's because our careers have such a big impact on our lives. When work isn't going well, that can make us feel really stressed, not just at work, but that seeps into our life outside of work. We come home and we feel stressed. We wake up with dread. We snap at our loved ones. So actually, I'm not just helping people achieve career success, but I'm helping them achieve a happier life overall, and hopefully also being kinder and nicer to the people around them. Now, conflict is inevitable at work. We're not going to agree with each other all the time. And it's actually a really good thing because conflict arises when there's creativity, when we're brainstorming and coming up with new solutions. So conflict can be a really positive element at work. But when we're in conflict with people or conflict is unresolved, that can feel very stressful. Now, one of the reasons that can feel very stressful is because we are kind of evolved over time to be part of a tribe. You know, it's only a few generations back that you would have lived in a tribe and been very reliant on other people for your own survival. So at work, if we're in conflict, work is a really key tribe, a group of people that we're around every day. So when we're in conflict, there can be a massive trigger for us that we worry about being rejected by that group of people. So it's just that fear of rejection can be at play. There's also a threat to our survival in the sense that we can sometimes think, well, if I can't resolve this conflict, particularly say if it's with your boss, you might think, well, I'm going to lose my job. So the stakes feel higher than maybe if you have an argument with someone in a supermarket or a small disagreement with a friend. Big disagreements at work can feel like they could be career threatening. And again, that might threaten our ability to pay our mortgage, to look after our children. So it starts to tap into some of those primal needs. The other thing is, it's hard to take a break from it. We have to go into work every day. If you're in conflict with someone at work, you can't necessarily avoid them. You know, maybe you have conflict with someone in your family, but you don't need to see them that much, or you find ways to avoid them at family gatherings. But conflict at work, you've got to face it every single day. So it can be a really stressful situation, and I have experienced it. I worked in investment banking for many years, and that was quite a high conflict environment. So I'd have to deal with this conflict at work. So how can we make it more manageable? The first thing is to really try not to take it personally. When you're in conflict with someone, it can feel like they're out to get you or they have a problem with you. But actually, if you can get clear on what the conflict is about, you can reframe it and resize it. And what we mean by that is you can make it an appropriate size. You can have an appropriate level of stress about it. If you feel like the whole relationship isn't working, then obviously your brain's going to be very stressed about it. If you can step back and say, the relationship is fine, we're just disagreeing on this one task or this one action or this one goal, it helps your brain proportionately have a more reasonable response to it. So first of all, just make sure it's the right size. Make sure in your brain you haven't blown it up to the relationship is over. It's like, okay, no, we're just stressed about this one thing. The next thing that is really helpful is just to get very clear on what is the source of that conflict. Sometimes it can just be a personality clash, but it might be that you just have different goals, or it might turn out that you have the same goal, but you have different ideas about how you should do it, or it might be that you're dealing with different facts, or it might be just that you're under a lot of pressure and this is just a way of the pressure coming up. But trying to understand the root cause of the conflict, first of all, helps you again right-size it in your mind. And it also gives you a much better chance of resolving it if you really understand what is the core conflict here. Another way to find conflict less stressful is to get really good at resolving it. So when you're in conflict, instead of avoiding it, you might think, here is a great opportunity to learn how to resolve conflict. And set yourself the challenge of, okay, I'm going to try and actually engage with this person and see if we can resolve it. And one of the first things to do is find some common ground. try and find something you can agree on. Even if that one thing you can agree on is that you're not agreeing. If you can just identify, if you can say to someone, okay, I can see we're in conflict over X, or I can see we have a disagreement about X, then they might agree with you on that. That's the first step, is some kind of agreement. And then you might say, okay, can we just establish what are our goals here? And then it might be that you can agree on a goal. So you're just trying to get them to start to agree on things and acknowledge that there is a conflict, and then you can start resolving it. Another really important thing is just to learn to be comfortable with unresolved conflict. When you're negotiating with someone, often the person who loses out in the negotiation is the person who is in the biggest rush to resolve it, to get to an end conclusion. So if you're really uncomfortable with conflict, it means that when you're in conflict, you're most likely to give ground first. And actually, that's not necessarily going to help you achieve your goals. So one of the things to learn is to sit with unresolved conflict. And a good technique for this might be that if you have an interaction with someone and it's clear there's some unresolved conflict, that you agree with yourself a certain amount of time before you're going to come back to this conflict and try and do something about it. So your instinct might be, I have to fix this right now. But you might say to yourself, I'm going to deal with this in 3 days' time. And in 3 days' time, it might not be an issue anymore. The other person might have come back to you with another solution. They might try and negotiate with you. But it's just learning to just sit on something for a certain amount of time. And the more you practice that, the more comfortable it will be, and the more you'll be able to tolerate unresolved conflict. So I hope that's just given you a few tips to help you get more comfortable with conflict, to help you resolve it, and also to have a bit of compassion for yourself and understand that it is very natural to find conflict at work stressful, but it is also part of having a job. And so what you can do is work on how you respond to it, getting good at resolving it, feeling more comfortable when it's unresolved. And also, I think it's really good to think about, when is it worth picking a battle and when isn't it? So sometimes you might notice a conflict and think, actually, I should just give ground here. And other times it is worth taking on the fight, seeing if you can resolve it in your advantage. And the final point is, sometimes you need to get somebody else involved. You might need to escalate to someone more senior and get them to resolve it too. But first of all, always try and resolve it yourself. I hope that's been helpful, and I wish you the best of luck with any conflict that you have to deal with.